You ever notice creation? Everything that's been created is amazing. You look at the earth and the stars and the sun and the moon. You look at the plants and the animals, trees, everything that's been created. It's absolutely amazing. The first story of the Bible, God talks about all of the things that He creates, and He says that all of them are good. And then He makes humanity. When He makes humanity, He makes the statement, the bold statement, that it is very good. Making man and woman in the image of God. You know, I think it's interesting as you continue on in the story that's outlined in Genesis. We come to Genesis 2, and there's a shocking statement that God makes. The statement is something, the first thing, that is not good. And that is the aloneness of man. He said it is not good for the man to be alone. So God creates a suitable helper for Adam, the first man. We know this woman is Eve. And when God created Eve to be a partner with Adam, Adam broke into poetry, just so excited about what God had created just for him. And the interesting thing that it talks about in that scripture, it talks about the type of relationship that the man and the woman are to have with each other. He says as the man is moving towards this woman in this one relationship, that it is for this reason that a man will leave his father and mother and be connected to his wife. And the relationship that God is talking about is the relationship of marriage. God built us, made us for relationship. And the relationship He intended for men and women is the marriage relationship. And the beauty of this marriage relationship that God intended us for is that He made it as a sexual relationship. He said, be fruitful and multiply, allowing the man and the woman to be intimately connected with each other. Many of us explore our sexuality. I know when I was 13 years old, I started trying to do whatever I could to be around the girls that I thought were pretty in my junior high class. I was doing everything I could to get them to notice me, to like me, to think I was great. I mean, I felt what God talked about when He made man for woman. I felt that draw, that urge, that desire to be around them. The problem was, by the time I got into high school, I was pursuing them for more than just companionship and company. I was pursuing them to experience them sexually. And as I had some of these sexual experiences, I found myself with guilt and shame and remorse, and I don't know where it came from. I felt like maybe it was just because my parents told me that wasn't a good idea. But even after I moved away from my parents and went to college and continued to pursue relationships and sexuality, I realized that the guilt and the shame and the indifference sometimes that I felt towards the women I was with reflected that something was broken. That maybe this wasn't the way it was supposed to be. Our culture is trying to tell us how we should live our lives and what's important, and trying to shape our view of our sexuality and our relationships. We come into a store like this and we recognize that we can pursue relationships, and many want to tell us how to go about doing that. Some are trying to teach us how to have a monogamous relationship. Others are just trying to help us get into a relationship. And then you have this whole other side, the side of sexual promiscuity and lust and pornography that draws us in and tells us that this is the way that it's supposed to be, that sex is only a physical act, and that we can find our greatest fulfillment through sexual pleasure. And I think God has something different to say about it. See, I think the relationship that God intended us for, in order to experience the best all that our sexuality is intended to be is this marriage relationship. God knows us better than we know ourselves. We think that sexual pleasure outside of marriage will give us what we're looking for, will give us the pleasure and the excitement and the thrill that we're looking for, but we also recognize it brings the brokenness and the hurt and the pain that we're not looking for. Our culture will tell us that it's okay to have lots of sexual partners or to have friends with benefits. Our culture tries to tell us that it's just a physical act, but maybe it's more than that. And maybe it's worth looking into.